Good evening, and thank you for inviting me here. My name is William Coley. I decided to run because I saw that things were not the way that I wanted them to be. That the Libertarian Party likes to talk about ideas, we like to talk about philosophy, but no one wants to talk about getting their hands dirty. I wanted to bring a voice of experience to this race. Someone who spent years of his life not just reading about libertarian philosophy, not just discussing it with my friends, but going out and proving that it works and that it can work for us in this country. I bring a voice of experience who knows what it's like to go through the hell that comes from living through our immigration system. I don't want to talk about libertarian philosophy. I want to talk about big ideas. I agree with Mr. Sharp over there. We need to stop using our heads and start speaking with our hearts, but we also need to speak with our hands. We need to get out there and get our hands dirty. Do what it needs to be done. I see men that risk their lives every day to fight for freedom. People who stand up in places where it can literally cost you your head to stand for liberty, and those men stand anyway. Let me stand for you so that we can get a libertarian future.
Yes, brother, yes.
Short and sweet. Who did more damage, Bush or Obama, and why?
I would have to say it's definitely Obama. Bush may have got us into a lot of these different foreign entanglements, but see, Obama decided that he should take it a step further. Instead of 2 wars, let's have 12. Instead of bombing 3 countries, let's bomb 15. Instead of funding 1 revolution, let's fund 9. Before, we had an anti-war movement in this country. But see, Obama came along and he did away with all that, didn't he? Anybody hear the anti-war left out there? When I look for the anti-war left, all I hear is crickets. That's a big change in our country. There was always one group, one big group, half the country, that said they weren't willing to stand for bloodshed in the name of this country. And sadly, unfortunately now, we are that only group. We are that group that could bring a voice to that message. And that's why I believe that Obama was worse, was because he silenced the anti-war movement, and on top of that, he decided that entrapping Americans was good policy here at home.
The question is, what role does culture play in creating a government that infringes our liberty, and what, if anything, can be done about it?
Yes, I would absolutely have to agree that it's fear, and that's because I've studied history. I've spent quite a few years of my life studying the downfall of other pluralist societies that existed before our own. And what usually happens is there's some military threat that scares everyone to death. There's some overthrow, there's some occupation that scares the bejesus out of grandmothers. And what happens is we decide that we want to regress, not progress, regress back to old ideas and failed ways of doing things. Things that we cast off in the times of the common law and then cast off again in the time of the Declaration. We cannot embrace their views. We cannot allow them to use fear and anger to turn us against each other. We have to stand together. That's the only way a culture can survive, because every culture that's been overtaken by fear has followed the same exact path. And that's part of the reason why I'm running, is because I've seen in history how that happens and want to see it not happen here.
How much of practical politics can be derived from the non-aggression principle? What other principles must be added to the non-aggression principle in judging policy positions?
I see the non-aggression principle as the philosophical base of any decision that's made, particularly by government. Force is not okay. Force is not something that we are okay with. That is a part of being a libertarian, is the fact that you reject the initiation of force. So if a policy initiates force on your neighbors, it is immoral. End of story. There is no argument. There is no discussion. If I think I have a right to use violence against you or your family for any reason, I am wrong. If I feel that I can give that right to someone else when I don't have it, I am wrong. You don't need to add anything to that. That's simple. That's plain. That's libertarianism at its very core. And that is how we should look at our political philosophy, as a philosophy that rejects the use of violence against others in any and all cases except for self-defense.
Should the U.S. be part of international organizations like NATO or the UN? Why or why not?
Should the United States be part of NATO and the UN? Short answer, hell no. Plain and simple, no. We should not be part of the UN. We should not be part of NATO. It's not our business. It has nothing to do with us. We shouldn't be overseas trying to buy off politicians, trying to buy off governments, trying to use NATO. It's a hammer. That's the way that it works. If you have a hammer, you're going to try to find a way to use it. That's the way reality is. That's simple. It's simple logic. I have a hammer. I need to find a nail. That's what the UN is. It's a giant hammer looking for something to smash. And I would have to argue that you can't put pressure on governments overseas through the collectively enforce what their directives are. So no, you can't use the UN to put the pressure on those governments, particularly when our government is funding and arming them.
What would be the first politically achievable, emphasize that, reform in the tax code that you would fight for?
I'm not really worried about what's politically achievable. We're libertarians. We don't have milquetoast ideas. We believe that taxation is theft. That's it. End of story. There is no discussion. Let's not work around the edges. Let's not change a little of this and a little of that. Let's get rid of all of it. Throw it out. The government has no right to my property. The government has no right to my wealth. End of story. The income tax should be ended. That is what we should advocate if we are elected into office. We shouldn't be worried about, oh, let's change the budget 20%. Oh, let's fix this over here 10% or 15%. Cut it all. Be done with it. The income tax is an oppressive system. Even religious institutions, every religion on earth thinks income tax is oppression. Why can we not agree on that simple fact?
As a Canadian, it seems to me that our Queen grants us about as much freedom as your president. Do you think that all the blood spilled in the American Revolution was therefore worth it? And when do you personally recommend armed rebellion?
Well, funny enough, my last name is Coley, which comes from the surname in Scotland, McCullough, which actually translates to son of Wallace. So I've had no love for the British in my family for quite a long time. Where I grew up in East Tennessee, they decided that they were going to invade our mountainous region, and they said, we're not leaving this mountain until we win, and we buried those British generals on those mountains, because sometimes that's what you have to do. If the government becomes so big, so egregious, and so oppressive that you can't feed your family, you can't take care of your business, you can't do anything whatsoever, then there has to be a breaking point. Now, am I saying that we should take up arms against the government? No, but when the government takes up arms against you, it's quite hard not to think about it being a pretty good idea.
The question is this: does the term libertarian have a branding problem? And if so, what should we do about it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, the Libertarian Party has a branding problem. We have an image problem, a very bad image problem. I work with a lot of people on the left. I've done everything I can to try to bring more people from the left into the Libertarian Party, even though I came from Ron Paul. Try to bring more people from the left into the Libertarian Party, even though I came from Ron Paul Republicans into the party. So there is an image problem. They believe that we are the crotchety older version of the Republican Party, the segregationist party, the Koch brothers party, and that's not true. And that's part of why I'm running, is I want to rebrand the party, because we already are the party of progress. The left, they're not the party of progress. They're the party of old ideas, recycling ideas that have failed over and over for the last 150 years. They're not the party of progress. They're the party of regression. Our party is the party of progress. Our party is the party of tolerance. The only true progress in life is every step you take toward furthering the ideas of liberty, toward more individual freedom for each individual. I already threw one. Oh, yeah. And, and what I want to do is I want to introduce the world to the real Libertarian Party, the party that ran a Jewish woman as their first vice presidential candidate and got us our first electoral vote, the party that was willing to allow an openly gay man to run for president in our party. We stood on political ground the left still will not walk near 40 years ago, and we need to do that again. Show this country we are not the Koch brother party. We don't want segregation. All we want is businesses to be allowed to refuse service that they don't want to do service with. If you own a falafel shop and a guy has a Kill All the Muslims t-shirt on, I want you to be able to tell that man to get out of your store. The same as if you're a bigot and you don't want a woman with a headscarf in your business, I think you should be able to tell her to leave too, because that's freedom. That's what freedom is. Freedom is the ability to associate with who you want and who you don't. But we don't have to sound like racists to say that. Let me tell that message. I'll get it across.
All right, so now we're going to have closing statements.
I ran for the vice presidential nomination for the Libertarian Party because I am a person who likes action. I'm not one who likes to sit and philosophize and jibber-jabber, what we call back home bumping gums, tongue wrestling, where you just sit around and you talk about ideas, you pontificate and discuss them, but no one goes out and gets their hands dirty. And I want to bring a voice to the ticket this year that has dirty hands. I want to bring a voice to the ticket that's been out there in the trenches, in places where most people fear to tread, trying to spread the ideas of freedom. I want to bring my experience helping men who will risk their lives to spread liberty. I want to bring that here. I want to inspire this party. I want to inspire this country. I want to inspire my fellow Americans. It's easy to break in a small place like Qatar or Pakistan or Malaysia. Those places are about the size of Pennsylvania. But see, America is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit harder to break into the national scene in this country. It's a little harder to get the opportunity for a bully pulpit to show people that experienced hands can show you libertarian ideas work. I'm not here to tell you about libertarianism. I'm not here to explain the way that it exists. I'm here to show you that it works. I'm here to bring a voice that has gone out there and helped other people prove that libertarian ideas are superior. Someone who has been in the trenches, someone who I love this party. I love these ideas. I am willing to go out and fight for them. I'm willing to die for them. Are you willing to die for them? I fight for liberty every day of my life. Will you come out here and fight for liberty with me?
Ask a Libertarian Facebook fan page is spreading awareness of libertarianism and informing non-libertarians while empowering those who support liberty on a daily basis. This is your opportunity to be empowered, and let us advocate libertarianism for you at facebook.com/askalibertarian.